Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology.
Welcome, everybody, to the 77th episode of the Blacks in Technology Bit Tech Talk audio podcast. I'm your host for this evening, Greg Greenlee. If this is your first time listening to the Blacks in Technology podcast, you can check us out at www.blacksintechnology.net. We are also on the Twitters, which is at Black in Technology, and that's BLKINTECHNOLOGY. You can check us out also on Facebook, which is facebook.com/Blacks in Technology. And we also have a LinkedIn group under the same name, Blacks in Technology. And if you are on Twitter right now, if you have any questions for our guests, tweet them to us using the hashtag BitTechTalk, BITTECHTALK, and we will hopefully get your questions answered. Blacks in Technology is a tech-focused community and media organization focused on increasing diversity in technology. We always focus on forming new partnerships and opportunities to assist our members with their continued professional growth and development. So if you want to partner with us, send us an email to partnerships@blacksintechnology.net. Any general inquiries, you can send us an email to contact us at blacksintechnology.net. And if you want to sponsor one of these fabulous podcasts and get your companies in front of all of our viewers and listeners, send us an email to sponsorship@blacksintechnology.net. I want to go over a couple of announcements before we actually get started on our questions and answers with our guests. DevOps Day Chicago is coming up in August. It's a 2-day community-driven technical conference that focuses on bridging the gap between development and operations. This year, the conference will take place August 25th and 26th at the University of Chicago Gleacher Center. Members of Blacks in Technology can use the promo code BIT25 to receive a 25% discount on registration. To learn more about the event or to submit a proposal to present at the conference, go to DevOpsDaysChi.org. So that's DevOpsDaysChi.org. Also, PuppetConf 2015 is happening in October 5th through the 9th. We actually were out there, Blacks in Technology. We did a joint partnership with them back in September of 2014, which went really well. They sponsored some tickets for some of our members to actually be able to attend PuppetConf 2014. That turned out really well. So registration is now open. And if you register now before June 30th, you'll get a 35% discount off the admission. Check out the website 2015.puppetconf.com. Sessions will range from how to get started with Puppet modules and related technologies to advanced tips and tricks for Puppet, PuppetDB, Razor, Factor, and more. I'm pretty sure there will be more to come as far as maybe a partnership with Puppet as far as getting some more tickets sponsored to this year's PuppetConf. So keep checking out our website. Keep visiting that to get more information. So tonight joining us is going to be Rodney Williams. He's the founder and CEO of Listener. Rodney leads one of the hottest companies in the IoT space, and that's the Internet of Things. And he intends to disrupt the mobile industry with a new communication protocol that is the most efficient way to connect any device. Listener is a new communication standard between devices that connect any devices with a speaker or a microphone using high-frequency data over audio called smart tones. Rodney holds an MBA from Howard University, along with 3 additional degrees, which includes a master's in integrated marketing communications, a BA in economics, and a BBA in finance. Welcome, Rodney, to our show tonight.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for having me.
Excellent. So before we get started with some of the more detailed questions, give us a little bit about some details about your educational and your professional background and where you come from.
I'm originally from Baltimore. Graduated out of Baltimore and actually went to West Virginia University undergrad. So undergrad at West Virginia is where I actually completed my first 2 degrees. And actually, I started working for the government by my sophomore year. I actually worked at the Department of Energy, National Energy Technology Laboratory, and business development. Continued to intern there until I graduated, went to Lockheed Martin, continued business development, got my master's. At some point in time, started a company that was caught the attention of the person who recruited me into Procter & Gamble. Then I decided to go to Procter & Gamble into brand management, and got my MBA, went to Procter & Gamble, did that for a number of years, was the first marketer there to co-write a few digital books that did really well for the company. And that's kind of what birthed Listener, as I was on a team looking at how we were going to how we were going to talk to consumers 5 years and out. This whole idea of using ambient technology that may always be around a particular consumer, how could we use that to effectively touch consumers wherever they are? And that was the initial insight and premise that started Listener. So,
excellent.
A little bit about my background.
Okay. Great. Thanks for sharing that. And for people who don't know, P&G, Procter & Gamble, based out of here in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I'm from and where I reside right now, and where Rodney is now residing, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, so it's rare that I get to speak to anybody really from the Cincinnati area. So that's a pleasure as well. So let's get into what is Listener. Yeah,
this is a 3-year journey. I always like to give a little bit of context.
Okay.
In the beginning of our days, we essentially were taking a unique technology and we were applying it to music. And the back of our mind, we always were trying to figure out how to advance it. And essentially, our team was always working on how to make it better. So that was in 2012. Well, sometime in 2013, we had a breakthrough with the core portion of the technology, which we today call smart tones. And essentially, fast forward to 2014, the breakthrough was the ability to actually transmit data through essentially an audio file, and be able to customize that data in very, very unique ways that could then be used to connect devices. Fast forward to today, that's kind of been the progression, 3 years in development of the technology that we're in market with today. Just like the introduction, I like to say it's a really efficient way to connect devices. Pretty much any device with a speaker or microphone we can connect. The smart tones are between 18, 20 kilohertz, and they allow data transfer that is at par to iBeacon. That can enable us to play our tones in venues and trigger second screen interactivity based on where you are within that venue, whether you're at the front door or the back door, or essentially the bar or the stadium. That can also allow us to do second screen interactivity based on what you're watching, what's around you. So there's honestly an unlimited number of use cases in which the technology can enable. So
let me get this straight. So just so I can follow, what Listener actually is doing. So in the background, you're playing, or is it the music is transmitting these audio tones? Is that what's happening? And your app is picking up on that and then using that to give these listeners additional information about the music they're listening to? Is that kind of how it's working?
That's what we used to say, but that's not really what we're doing.
Okay.
Okay. When I talk about the technology, there's definitely a learning curve in understanding it. So, us launching it in music was an easy way to explain what we're doing. What we are really doing, today we no longer have an application. All of our customers are using the SDK. We are a B2B play. We live in other applications, whether we do or not. And that device or that application is listening and interacting with our audio. Now, our audio could be played anywhere. It could be played by itself. It could be attached to a song. It could be attached to a TV show. Literally, it could be played at your favorite grocery store. When we play our tones, it's pretty much allowing a certain level of interactivity to happen to the device. It could tell the device to turn on. It could tell your device to take a picture. It could tell your device to do a number of things. Or it could just tell your device to show you a coupon. Or there's just an unlimited list of things that it can tell your device to do. Some of my favorite things that we do today, right? Imagine our tones being played at a stadium. So actually, you can't hear them, but we're playing them through the different speakers of the stadium. When our tones are being played, that stadium's app or that team can trigger a message to that fan depending on where they are in the stadium. So I want to send a message to people at the concession stand versus the stadium, or better yet, if they get up and use the bathroom and there's a big, they score a touchdown before they get back to their seat, they'll get a notification prior to them ever leaving or ever coming back to their seat. So think of hyper proximity-based messaging. What we're actually doing is understanding what tone you're near and doing a bit of triangulation to understand where you are, and then we're delivering you a response. And that delivery of response of what we're telling you what to do is all happening through the tone. You never have to go to Wi-Fi or connectivity to understand what the device should do. But that's one of the use cases.
Excellent. That's pretty slick. And the reason why I asked is because when I first had an interaction with you was at the fireside chat at I can't remember the name of the place, but during that fireside chat, it sounded at the time, I guess this might have been a couple of years ago actually. It sounded as if the application of smart tones was geared more towards music. So now you're saying that's not. It was just an easy way to kind of explain how to do things, and now it's the application is of smart tones is much broader than that.
Yeah, I mean, you only know what you know, right? We knew that. I mean, being honest, we knew that our ultrasonic technology was different. We knew that it did a lot of things better, but we didn't know the true capability of it. I think it was easy for people to understand that we were doing things with the music. But our first paycheck came from a broadcaster. Our second paycheck came from a sports team. These were really big paychecks. So in the background, we were always figuring out how do we create a scalable version of what's selling. Our app is doing okay. The stuff that we're doing in music is getting attention. But our big paychecks are coming from the meat of the technology. But we needed to make it better so that it's actually scalable. And that's kind of what we've been doing in the background. We most recently became a TechStars company. We graduated, and I like to say that was almost like, a lot of folks were like, why is Listener joining a connected device accelerator in this TechStars? I don't even get it. But the reality is because we were officially making a real transaction to the world to say, hey, no, this is a really efficient way to connect devices. We are an alternative to Bluetooth. So that's the conversation that we need to start having,
Gotcha. And I know you kind of touched on it earlier. You were telling us about your background, but how did the actual idea of Listener come about? I know you were working at P&G at the time, and you were doing brand management for them. So what was the point where you were like, oh, this something like this could actually work?
Well, my co-founder say, I had a light bulb moment, and I might have sent him, 30 emails in a 24 to 48 hour time period, and I was starting, I became obsessed with ambient technology, and particularly everything that you couldn't hear. And in the beginning, some of my notes said that I wanted to create Morse code and frequency range that you can't hear. I'm not an engineer. The only thing what I do pretty well is understand the consumer value proposition or the customer value proposition of a technology. So it's not, right. I don't understand how to make the technology, but what I clearly understand is the power of that technology if we can create it. So, it's not until I met who became our CTO, and he created a prototype based off of a license in the beginning, and then that's kind of what started everything. In the very, very beginning, we took someone else's technology and we were making it better. We were actually the first company to make any type of ultrasonic audio in our frequency range survive digital compression. In the beginning, that was our first, aha. We figured out how to make it survive codecs that were supposed to strip it, but it weren't. We just created a way to hide it. And that is also how we started to develop our particular smart tone that now transmit data.
And I think it's cool that, how you explain that, because I think what's important for people to know, especially young people who may or may not be listening to this podcast right now, but I think it's important for young people to realize that to be in tech and to be a founder or an entrepreneur in tech and head up a technology startup does not require you to actually be an engineer. Ideas have to be there, which you most certainly had, but it's not like you have to be a coder or you have to be an engineer. You do have to understand how that technology can be used, and like you said, what the customer value proposition would be. But if people can actually just, step back and not look at tech all the time as this daunting, equations on the board and code running around in the computer and things like that, and just and take it from an aspect of, how can you use technology to enhance things or make things better? I think it could be a lot more appealing, especially to our younger generation. So I'm glad that you touched on that. Excellent. So you work for P&G, which is one of the biggest companies around. So what was your experience like going from something as stable as being at P&G, having a stable company, a stable job, and then venturing out on your own to kind of pursue a listener?
Yeah, of course. I mean, right? It was a dream. It was like a dream on a checklist to be at P&G. And brand management, they're coming from the top schools, the Harvards and the Stanfords, and I was fortunate because I went to Howard. It was, I'm still excited about that experience. But I am an opportunist, very opportunistic thinker. And when we created this, I'm always about, if we can reach the next step, we can reach the next milestone, the market will tell us if this is a real company or not. And in the very beginning, we had the idea, and the guy who became my lead, my CTO, he said, well, I don't have time to build this, but I have a startup. I'm going on a startup competition called the Startup Bus. If you come along, I will build it, and if we win, then let's figure it out.
Right.
These things happen all the time, but I'm serious. So I remember going to work. I said I'm taking off for a week. I went on the bus. We end up winning our bus. We end up getting off the stage, and literally Pepsi and Disney wanted to talk. We pitched to a few VCs while we were there. That one of those VCs ended up being the VC who gave us our seed round terms. He said, listen, I will give you your first investment if in the next 3 months or, whenever you do, you go out and hit these 5 milestones. And we went out and hit our 5 milestones, and I think we've been hitting milestones ever since. There was never a time that I felt like I didn't have the support financially or from a team. From day one, essentially everyone that was on that bus that decided to work on our team became a founder. Mm-hmm. Right. And we continued to roll. I think it's a couple lessons there, but it's definitely a team that takes this thing to happen. And it's definitely support from individuals that have done it before. I like to say people who've seen the movie before, they can predict the ending. And I like to say with people on my team, when you're a founder, you don't know a lot of other founders. You're at a disadvantage. reality is you need other founders. You need people who've done it before. You need people that understand it. They can teach you. You can learn faster. You can go faster. You can do more. So a lot of that happened very, very early in our development.
Very nice. So would I guess would that be some advice that you would give to future entrepreneurs is to find somebody that's been there and done it before and try to get them, because you find a lot of people, or you hear about a lot of people that aren't able to actually give up their jobs in order to pursue something, or they don't have the financial stability to be able to do that, or they might not even have the vision to go out and say, hey, I need somebody who's had that experience. So is that something that you would try to advise to people before they actually step out, or what would you say to that?
I think just be real with yourself. I'm gonna be clear. Right. I told myself that I wouldn't leave P&G without funding, which would guarantee my financial stability.
Right.
That was, so, when I went to investors and we said, hey, I hit my 5 milestones, and I gave them, the pretty much, what would it take for the next 12 to 18 months for this thing to go, there was a line item that was my salary. That's how these guys do it. In the beginning, I was like, hey, would it be wrong for me to ask that? And they're like, no. You are a professional with multi-degrees that have responsibility.
Right.
Investors want to pay you to be involved and stick around. You don't, so, I had to grasp that as well. So, like, even when I made a jump, my life didn't change. I worked a lot more. I was more passionate. I was working for myself, but financially, I was pretty much the same.
Gotcha. Very, very, very interesting. I think that's an interesting point to make about the salary part of it. So that's pretty cool. So along those lines, you had Listener Built. What was there anything out there on the market that was similar, that competition that you might have to beat out, or anything like that that you knew of?
Yeah, very, very. In the very, very beginning, right, there was a company out of New York that had a technology that we actually licensed in the beginning, but it was very, very different. It's not what we wanted it to do, so we kept breaking it. There was Yamaha has a version that all of these versions can't transmit data. They're what I call identifiers. So
Gotcha.
It broadcasts a silent tone, but literally the tone says 456. So it just tells you that number. You still have to go to a server to understand what it should do. So there were a couple in the market. Shopkick actually uses something like that. There was any of my San Francisco, Silicon Valley fans, there's a company called Klinkle that raised an enormous amount of money because they said that they had made a new. It was essentially they said that it was a new banking type of app that allowed contactless payments, and they said they used ultrasonic audio. So I like to say, and there's a lot of people trying to do this and working on it. And there's some folks over in even Israel that were trying to do so. When I looked at it, and a few of my developers, the answer that we kept getting was, I think we can make it better. I think we can make it better. And we did.
Excellent. So what did you use to kind of validate your product, right? So you're saying that you have this new technology, and you caught the ears of a few big companies. What was it that you use to say, yeah, this actually works and this will actually work for you and your products?
Well, as the founder, as the guy with the inspiration and the vision, I like to say you cannot waver. Like you have to believe more so than anyone else. I was coming off of a career where I was on P&G's biggest brand. I was actually on Pampers. A huge marketing budget. I actually ran the marketing budget. I just understood what brands would pay for. I understand what they would need, and I was known to push the limits in marketing on my brand. So I internally had a very, very strong confidence in terms of using technology to go out and touch consumers, right? So when we created technology, and you always ask yourself, is this the right thing? Does this work? You got to believe it first, and then the market is going to believe it. I mean, the market is going to believe it. I continue to say that the market has always believed in us, whether it's big customers, whether it's awards, whether it's, that's kind of how we've gotten the attention that we've gotten thus far. We didn't go to the Valley and got a bunch of VCs that got excited. We went to New York and got a bunch of brands that got excited. And we kept doing that until we kept making the technology better. So I think you got to believe in yourself, and the market will validate your product. I believe it. I believe it. I think if it doesn't, then you change it. You fix it. Think of us in the beginning, right? We were we wanted it to have data transfer. We wanted to have better battery efficiency. We wanted it to essentially the detection time to be really, really fast, 0.6 seconds a second. We wanted all these things. And my premise was I think that brands want that so they can touch consumers better. So, as we went to brands, if they're saying yes, and they're like, wow, but I'll use your broken version right now. I'll use your old version. And then you start to work with these brands and really start to figure out how can we build what they're asking for. Is it even possible? So, oh my God, it's been a story. What I can say is, we've sat down with professors at MIT. We have hired some of the smartest people around the world to take a look at it. We've broken it. We've fixed it again. We've broken it again. This is something that we are, putting our foot down and say, hey, you know what? We're going to be the leaders in ultrasonic audio in the world, and that's what we're trying to position ourselves as. That's what we're going after. No one is trying to be as aggressive as us in terms of progressing it, and we're going to go and say we're going to progress it. We believe this is what will be, next. When you guys go into your phone and you're looking at settings, and right now you see a Bluetooth button, and it's in between a Wi-Fi button. We want it to be a listener button. That's where we're headed.
Wow. Okay. So that's pretty interesting. You sat with people from MIT. That to even get to that point to where, you would need to even hire people like that is pretty. That has to be pretty inspiring on your end, and that has to really give you validation that this is something that is going to be, pretty much game changing.
Yeah, like I said, right? You look for the validation.
Right.
And you keep believing in yourself. You got to be inspiration for your team, right? Engineers. And I like to speak about my engineers to take our team. I would hope that they are inspired by such a belief, right? They have laughed sometimes because in some of the tech conversations that we have, and we're there's an issue that's happening, and I say something ridiculously crazy, but it actually opens up a way for the technology to work.
Right.
Because sometimes we block ourselves, and I think engineers, marketers, we always block ourselves. And I just think when you're a leader and a founder, you should, your job in the room is to take away the barrier.
That's pretty inspiring because you hear about some of the best ideas when people are doing like marketing and research and things like that come from kids, because kids are pretty much uninhibited, and they don't think the same way adults think, because as people get older, that's when you start getting these barriers put in front of you and saying, oh, you can't do that, you can't do this. And kids are uninhibited. They don't have that. They don't see the world like we see it, and they see the world as, you know, kind of this like open blank book that they can just fill with all these types of ideas. And to hear you talk like that is very inspiring, because a lot of people, they don't think like that. They don't think along those lines. That book is closed to them. And for somebody who wants to be like a real leader and a real thinker and really push the envelope, you have to think like that. You have to, you know, not to sound cliche, but you do have to think outside the box. And I think that's definitely what you're doing. So kudos, man. That's pretty slick. So what technical challenges did you have early on, and kind of how did you handle those technical challenges?
Oh man, like, you know, I am a fan of technology, and I'm a fan of what technology does to, you know, how it changes our everyday lives. But
Right.
you know, sometimes I tell some of my investors and partners that unfortunately I'm not making Instagram for pets. So I'm partly not doing something that has a toolkit, you know, like I'm not
Right.
doing Uber for anything, right? I don't have a toolkit. There's certain toolkits that I can go out and I can learn from, right? We've spent a lot of time learning how ACR technology was brought to market, how Bluetooth was brought to market, how protocols like Zigbee, how codecs make money. These are really, I like to say, technology components of bigger things. I think that's what we are. I actually just think we are a better and newer screw. And, you know, you're going to take your old screw out, which could be any one of those technologies, and you're going to insert listener as a new screw or an additional screw. So what I would say that with bringing a technology to market, and the use cases of the technology and the advantages of technology, it's a lot of challenges. I mean, we have challenges every step of the way, whether that, you know, the technology working like we need it to work, or advancing it like we think it can advance, to the level of engineering staff that we need, and we're, you know, and to get that out of the Midwest to, I mean, we have challenges across the board. You know, so I mean, I just think, you know, when you choose to do a startup, you choose a big challenge. It's no part of it is easy or in any way or any capacity. So.
Right, and I hear what you're saying, and I get what you're saying, because what you're basically saying is this technology, the listening technology, is not, for instance, a website, right? This is not something that already has all the components. This is a low-level component that you are introducing into technology. For instance, this is on a protocol level. So it's not like that there's, you know, all these APIs out there, these software development kits that you can put together to help build your technology. Your technology is what is going to be used to build other things.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Exactly. So, like, you know, I tell my developers all the time, like, you know, you guys are the world's expert at building on top of ultrasonic technology, because you guys have been doing it for 4 years. There's no one else that has been doing it for 4 years, you know, to our level. So, I mean, because we're trying to lead the pack here. So, every part of it's challenging. Every part, you know, think of every part of it, right? How do we sell it? How do we build it so it's easy to use? How do we build it so the person who buys it and the developer who builds it and the marketing manager who uses it all understands it? Those are all complex things that we had to figure out and talk to our customers, you know, and try to understand the nuances that we needed to make sure we deliver on, to make sure that we continue to progress. One of the reasons I I'm extremely excited about our president that we just, he started, 3 months ago to this date. But he's one of the pioneers in ACR technology. He was at number 2 at Grace Note. ACR is similar technology to what Shazam uses. Grace Note was one of the leaders in providing the B2B platform of that type of technology to everybody, from Samsung to Apple to, it was a huge unit. He was the number 2 there. He even won an Emmy from using his technology. So when he got a whiff of listener, he instantly saw how this was better, and he chose to join us. I talked about that in the beginning, but when you find someone who has seen your movie before, you have to get them because it's they've seen your movie before. So, because that's another big component of someone that I was missing. This is a very hard movie, I'm really excited to have him on because he's built the technology out. He's built the industry around the technology. He's built the use cases and all the components before. So it's a lot of transferable knowledge.
Very cool. That's very cool. So let me ask you this, and I think I might have heard you touch on this before at the fireside chat. But so I'm pretty sure you've had opportunities to take this company to Silicon Valley and do your startup there. So why did you choose to keep it here in the Midwest?
There's a lot of ways to answer that. I can answer like the fun way. I am extremely. I'm gonna do it both ways. The first answer is I am extremely fortunate, and I have a lot of appreciation to the city in the Midwest. I'm not a native here. They believed in the product, they believed in the team, and they supported us very, very quickly. And they gave us a lot of support, and they continue to do so. So, why not? I think that there's some advantages in a place like Cincinnati. I think our developers are extremely happy. We have a 4,800 square foot office. An average salary of a developer here in Cincinnati he can buy a home, he can buy a car, he can live a very, very nice life. I can pay a developer six figures in San Francisco, and your developers are living in a shoebox. So I just think my developers are happy. I think engineering. I think the team. So I think for as long as I continue to get the right talent, I think we're going to continue to build out a great company here. I think, of course, one day we will have to make a decision, and we will. But yeah, San Francisco, the Valley. I'll
put it like this. I like.
Yeah.
Right. That's just what I was about to say. I like to visit there. You know what? I love being able to go to San Francisco and the conversations that I have with people there, because they do think on a different level about certain things than people here do. And the area is nice, and I like the diversity area and things like that. But man, it is ungodly expensive to live there, to set up there. I was out at in San Fran back in September, and I actually had a friend who was from Cincinnati who actually relocated there to work for Facebook, and then he worked for Salesforce. And I stayed at his place, but he had a friend we hung out with that stayed in downtown San Francisco. And we went to his place, and this place was very, very nice, had very nice finishes and touches and things like that. But it was relatively small. And he was paying almost $2,000 a month for that place. And I was just like, man, if you knew what you could get in Cincinnati. I told some people this when I was in San Fran last week. Just the amount of house you could get with a $2,000 mortgage payment. People were literally dropping their jaws. dropping their mouths open when I told them. And it's true. I mean, you pay somebody here 6 figures, and they can go out and get a 3,000-4,000 square foot house, car, whatever, and be comfortable. You do that there, and I'm talking when I say 6 figures, I mean 100,000 in that range, and yeah, you're literally struggling and to survive every month. So I definitely get that part, and the loyalty part is huge, and I find that a big thing as well. I mean, at least with myself, when I form partnerships with people or form friendships, and I don't know if that's kind of a Midwest thing or not, but I find loyalty above all is a huge thing for me. So that Cincinnati love, I guess, is pretty infectious.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't mind it, I don't mind it, I don't mind it, put it that way. And I recently I went to an innovation forum that was held by E&Y, and they made they talked about the similarities to a jazz musician creating a jazz piece, and that he kind of starts off with what he knows, but essentially as he plays, he's making it up. And they said, that's the level of innovation. They said, like true jazz musicians were the best innovators. They had a chip on the shoulder, they had a style with them, and they were able to create incredible pieces on the fly. And
right.
I came back to Listener, and I talked all about it, and everyone was excited about it. But it was how we've been running the company. We have a chip on our shoulder. My developers think they're the best developers walking earth. They have a chip.
Right.
They feel proud that they've done this. I kind of have a chip. I go into some meetings, and unfortunately, sometimes they may think I'm the intern or the other guy in the room. But wow. I am the guy who created it. So yeah, I do have a chip, and and I have I have a long list of accolades to prove that chip. So I like that.
Right.
I think that's important.
Excellent. So how did you go about building your team? What were some of the things that you were what was your thought process behind, hey, get this person, get this engineer, get this manager?
Well, I've made good choices. I've made bad choices. I'm learning from all those choices, and the similarities and the good choices that I've made are people that I felt were inspired by the technology, inspired by my passion. They had an internal need to do something great or different.
Right.
I think those group of people that we've been able to attract to Listener are the ones that are doing the best. They're the ones that are learning on the fly. One of our my best developers, I like to call them athletes. They have a specialty, but they essentially can build or try to build on everything, and they'll teach themselves everything because they're just so passionate about the problem. It's not, it's not Rodney, go find this type of developer. You know what? I'm just going to stay up the next 3 nights. I'm just going to figure it out. And those are the type of people I want to go to war with. Those are the type of people. So, fast forward to today, tend to have a good rhythm of the type of person. I've been doing a lot of thinking about, sometimes, especially at startups, you got to hire people for the time. You may hire someone for the moment in time of that company, and you are hiring them to get to the next step. Not because you like them, not because they even believe in you, but because they are the person that's most capable of taking it there.
Right.
I think, so it's a lot of things that go into as you hire and you build your team. But the number one thing that should be on your mind is, can this person get you to the next step? Is this person good at something you're bad at?
Right.
Because you need to have folks that compensate for some of the things that you lack. I think that's important.
All excellent points, and it's funny. We were when I was out at the WWDC conference that Apple was giving. There were people that were actually talking about entrepreneurship, and they actually touched on a lot of the things that you just touched on. So one of the things is hiring somebody to get you to that next step, right? You're like, actually, let me back up. I read that actually in Ben Horowitz's book. So this didn't come from WWDC. I read that in Ben Horowitz's book. What book is that? The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And he actually was saying, echoing some of those same sentiments, basically, the person, because your company, it changes, it morphs. So, where you are today might not be where you are, 2 years from now. And in order to make those changes, the person who was running it at that time, or who was in that position at that time might not be great for that growth. And they might have never handled that type of growth before. And then now you need somebody to be able to handle that growth and handle that stage where your company is at. And so, yeah, definitely some great advice there. Thanks a lot for that. Yeah. So is listener hiring? And if so, how does someone become a part of a listener team? What are some of the skills that you're looking for right now?
I mean, we are hiring. If you're a Python developer, I would love to have you. If you're a digital signal processing engineer, you could be a government contractor or work at a government or in the Valley. But if you think you are one of the best, I would love to bring you on. We continue to hire. I mean, we are about to go into a hiring spurt, a growth spurt. So it's actually a good time. It's probably not, from product managers to project managers to iOS, Android, and Windows developers. I mean, we're essentially, it's a good time to connect with us from a leadership standpoint. It's just a good time.
So you wouldn't mind if I, tweeted out, listeners is hiring to our audience then. All right.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it, definitely. How many people do you have in your company right now?
We have a total of 22 employees currently.
Wow. That's pretty nice. Pretty nice. So let me ask you this. What was one of your biggest, wow moments with running Listener? So you meet somebody and you're like, wow, I just met, fill in the blanks there.
Wow moment.
Yeah. The
real wow moment that I had, and it's so cliche, and I apologize. But that's just it's the thing that pops up in my head. There's been others, but in the very, very beginning, literally, the company hasn't even been 6 months old. I'm out on my trail of fundraising, and I get out of a meeting, and the legal counsel there is like, hey, I went to Howard. You went to Howard. I'm walking over to Rock Nation. Do you want to come? I said, yeah. Right. Yeah, so we went over to Rock Nation, and he introduced me to someone who became one of our advisors and mentors. His name is Brian Biggs, and I presented to Brian Biggs. Brian, he got it and he loved it, and he said, listen, just keep coming back in the office. I mean, I want you here almost every week. And he let me, pitch Listener to essentially everyone in the office until we had at some point in time, someone in the office wanted to use us and continue to go. But it was just, fast forward a month or two. It's one particular day. He comes in and he says, Rodney, it's time to pitch in front of Jay-Z. And I was like, I'm not ready. No one told me that it would happen today.
Right. This is a little bit different from pitching in front of a bunch of people and pitching in front of Jay-Z. It's a step up.
it's a step up. But this is what I signed up for. I was nervous as anything. Huge office. He was sitting back, leaning in the chair. His feet was on the desk. That was, I pitched in about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. You know how hard it is to do this in 2 minutes? But I did it. He shook his head. He smiled. He liked it. And that was the beginning of our partnership and investment that came from Rock Nation. That was my wow moment. And I was, if I get slightly nervous today, I'm like, 7 months in with relatively nothing, I got called in to pitch in front of, who I grew up, watching his music videos, and I was able to convince him. So when I don't convince someone, I don't take it personal.
Right.
So I think that's a wild moment. I think also as an entrepreneur, I think you got to be comfortable and this is getting to another topic, but it's something that I walk around with. I think you got to be comfortable with self-inspiration. I think you have to be self-motivated. I no longer look for inspiration anywhere else but in the mirror. And if I'm ever down or faulted, I sit back and laugh and smile because I've already won.
Right.
And I think that's important that, I think that the entrepreneurs that I actually like and the ones that I think have it, I think are the entrepreneurs that kind of walk around with their own fire pit, I like to say. They don't have another source. They only have one source, and it's pretty damn big. So those are some things that I learned.
Excellent. Well, you definitely inspired me tonight, man. Just hearing you speak and talk about your passion and what you've built with Listener. It should inspire anybody who's listening, actually. So I definitely want to thank you for coming onto the show. So the last question before we get out of here: what's next for you? What's next for Listener?
What's next? I mean,
world domination.
We're going to continue. We're going to continue doing things we love to do, and we're going to keep being happy about it, passionate about it. We're going to continue to grow, and we're inspired to change everything that's ever been done, particularly with that device that everyone loves and is holding on to in their hand right now as we speak. Right. I think we're going to do some damage, and I'm excited about it.
Well, I'm looking forward to having that on my phone and saying, "Hey, I spoke with the guy who invented that." By the way, I'm gonna name drop. I don't do it often, but I'll name drop, especially because you live in Cincinnati, so I gotta show some natty love.
Yeah.
So before we jump out of here, give us URLs how people can follow you, follow Listener.
Yeah. followlistener.com. Great blog, some press, all our announcements there. I mean, our Twitter handle is @listener, LISNR. All of my social handles everywhere, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or essentially anywhere, Twitter, it's just Rodney B. Williams, RODNEY, the letter B and Williams.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, follow us. It's going to be a fun ride.
Well, I guess I don't really need to wish you success because you're already on your way, but I wish you much more success in the future. And, drop us a line if for anything really, bid is open, for you and your company. So, if you need to make any announcements or anything like that, we're more than willing to do that. And just keep us in mind. So thanks a lot, Rodney, for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. And I really appreciate what you're doing with your organization. So I'm glad that I was able to get on the phone today.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate that.
Awesome.
Take care.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye. And that is it for this episode of the Blacks in Technology Big Tech Talk podcast. We want to thank all of our listeners for listening in. We want to thank our guest tonight, Rodney Williams, founder, CEO of Listener. Sounds like he's going to be making some big waves. He's already making waves. He's going to be making bigger waves. Let's put it like that. If you like what you heard tonight and you want to let us know you have any suggestions or comments, email them to us at contactus@blacksintechnology.net. And also join us in 2 weeks on July 2nd. We're going to have another exciting episode of the Blacks in Technology Big Tech Talk podcast. We will be joined by Brandon Terrell, the CEO of Nomadic Technologies. And we will be talking to him about Nomadic Technology and what he's been working on. So join us 2 weeks, same bit time, same bit channel. And remember, tech yourself before you wreck yourself. Take care. Have a good night.
Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology.